per risorgere con lui. Aspergiamo il corpo del nostro Papa Francesco. A una vita nuova in Cristo, nello Spirito.
Russian President Vladimir Putin on Monday proposed bilateral talks with Kyiv for the first time in years and said he was open to more ceasefires after a one-day Easter truce. Putin's comments come as he faces pressure from Washington to show a willingness to make peace in Ukraine. Speaking to a state TV reporter, he said Moscow was open to any peace initiatives and expected the same from Kyiv.
As we have always said, we look positively at any peace initiatives. We hope that the representatives of the Kyiv regime will also feel the same way. However, we have seen the initial reaction. I think everyone has noticed it. There was a statement published according to which our proposal was seen as a game with fates, with people's lives, and so on. But apparently there was someone smarter there who suggested, most likely from foreign overseers, that rejecting such initiatives is a losing position for the Kyiv regime, and they quickly agreed.
Both countries accused the other of violating Putin's truce, which Kyiv had largely dismissed from the outset as a stunt. Washington said it would welcome an extension of the truce. Zelensky, who has called for it to be extended to a 30-day ceasefire on civilian targets, said continued Russian attacks during Sunday's ceasefire showed Moscow was intent on prolonging the war. When asked about Zelensky's proposal, Putin said Russia should look into it. His spokesman later confirmed that Putin was referring to the possibility of direct talks with Ukraine. Separately, Zelensky confirmed Kyiv was sending a delegation to London to meet with the United States and other Western countries on Wednesday, follow-up from last week's meeting in Paris. In his statement on X, Zelensky made no reference to Putin's remarks on bilateral talks. Russia rejected a proposal from U.S. President Donald Trump last month for a full 30-day ceasefire, which Ukraine had accepted. The two sides are not known to have held any such talks since a failed peace effort in the early months of the war 3 years ago. Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio both said on Friday that Washington could walk away from peace talks in Ukraine altogether if the sides do not make more progress within days. Trump took a more optimistic view on Sunday, saying that hopefully the two sides would make a deal this week.
El Salvador President Nayib Bukele wants to send over 250 U.S. deported Venezuelans held in his country back to Venezuela. In an ex-post Sunday, he said he wanted Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro in return to release the same number of, quote, political prisoners. The Salvadorian leader who visited President Donald Trump at the White House last week did not say if the prisoners would be locked up again after an exchange. Last month, the Trump administration deported at least 200 Venezuelans from the United States to El Salvador, accusing them of being part of Tren de Aragua, a criminal gang originating from Venezuelan prisons that his administration has called a terrorist group. Among those Bukele proposed for release from Venezuela were journalist Roland Carreño, human rights lawyer Rocio San Miguel, and the mother of Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado. Venezuela says it holds no political prisoners and that those imprisoned have been convicted of crimes. And on Sunday, its chief prosecutor criticized Bukele's prisoner exchange plan. Nearly 50 detainees proposed for release were of other nationalities, including U.S., German, and French citizens. The U.S. Special Envoy for Hostage Response praised Bukele on social media and said at least 10 Americans were proposed for exchange. The U.S. is paying El Salvador $6 million to detain the migrants in its high-security terrorism confinement center. The Venezuelan government has denied that the Venezuelans deported by the US are linked to gangs. On Saturday, the US Supreme Court issued a temporary halt to deportations of Venezuelan migrants accused of gang ties after a request from the American Civil Liberties Union.
Hoaxsters. This group, no, this group right here, full of hoaxsters.
U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth lashed out at reporters outside the White House on Monday after reports he shared highly sensitive security details in a second Signal chat. He reportedly shared details of a March attack on Yemen's Houthis in a message group that included his wife, brother, and personal lawyer.
See, this is what the media does. They take anonymous sources from disgruntled former employees, and then they try to slash and burn people and ruin their reputations. Not going to work with me.
The renewed scrutiny comes at an uncertain moment for Hegseth and the Pentagon, where senior officials were ousted last week as part of an internal leak investigation. But President Donald Trump told reporters that he continues to stand behind his defense secretary.
Pete's doing a great job. Everybody's happy with him. We have the highest recruitment numbers I think we've had in 28 years. No, he's doing a great job.
In the second Signal chat, Hegseth shared Houthi attack details similar to those revealed last month by The Atlantic magazine that included its editor-in-chief, Jeffrey Goldberg. A person familiar with the matter told Reuters that Hegseth had been counseled against sharing information on unsecure systems like Signal before he did so. At least 9 Senate Democrats have called on Hegseth to resign since the latest news. But Republican lawmakers, who control both the Senate and House of Representatives, have largely been silent on the issue, and none have called for him to step down. Meanwhile, the White House denied a report from NPR, saying that it had begun searching for a new defense secretary.
Drugs giant Roche said Tuesday it would invest $50 billion in the US over the next 5 years. It's one of the biggest such moves made by major companies as they grapple with Donald Trump's sweeping global tariffs. The Swiss firm said the move would create more than 12,000 jobs, including nearly 6,500 during construction. Though medicines are currently exempt from Trump's tariffs, that could soon change.
And all I have to do is impose a tariff. The faster they move in.
The threat has makers scrambling to announce investments to counter Trump's tariffs, which he says are intended to boost domestic output of pharmaceuticals. Roche says its investment will include new research facilities and expanded manufacturing in locations including Indiana, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, and California. Once all that comes online, the firm says it will export more drugs from the US than it imports. Chief Executive Thomas Schinecker said the investment underscored Roche's commitment to the country, where it already employs 25,000 people. It all follows an earlier pledge by Swiss rival Novartis to invest $23 billion in the US.